I'd like to discuss the law of divine restitution. Loss is a big deal for most of us. Loss of money, loss of property, loss of people. Loss can be very tragic, and this is a world of loss. But there is no loss in divine mind. There is no loss in spirit. There is no death in spirit. Spirit has the ability to restore any apparent loss. The way that the restoration happens is very different depending on the circumstance and depending on the person, but it is always available. But we have to call on that law. The law is dormant until we call on it, just like many laws. A lot of people use the divine law of restoration, especially when they've lost property or when they've lost money, because those are things that are easily restored by spirit in this world. Obviously, in this world, it's less easy to restore things like people who have died. But even still, with people who have died, when you call upon the law of restoration, what you can restore, or the divine law of restitution, you can restore your relationship with that person. That means that you can find forgiveness, that you can find peace, and that you can find a current relationship with them, even though they are no longer in the physical. But today I'd like to really discuss the law as it pertains to more practical results that you can achieve. Let's look in terms of money first. There are a lot of stories that you will hear from people. Almost everybody actually has lost money in the past. We've all made stupid choices with our money. We've all maybe gone into debt, or we've gambled, or we've lost things. We've invested poorly. We've overspent. We've done things where we've lost money. I know people who've lost a lot of money. To spirit, there's no big. There's no small. There's no insignificant and significant. It's all the same. There's no difficult and easy to spirit. Everything's the same. But what we are capable of achieving in this world, a lot of that rests on what we believe is possible. So spirit can't really do more for us than we have faith that can be done. So the first idea, before you even call on the law of divine restitution, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, is you have to look in terms of what your sphere of influence is. And the sphere of influence in regards to restitution is what you believe or what you have faith that is possible. It's really about expanding your understanding of what is possible to be restored. I've talked to people who have lost a lot of money, and let's just use $8 million as an example. I lost $8 million, and I don't have any way of getting it back. And I say, well, we can call on the law of restitution, but first of all, we have to look in your own mind and see what you believe is possible. Now, if you lost $8 million, then it was possible for you to have $8 million in the first place. So do you see how it's possible for that $8 million or its equivalent to be restored to you? And they say, no. It's impossible because, and they always have reasons. So there's always all kinds of wonderful reasons why it can't be possible. And then I say, well, then we have to work within what you believe is possible, because Spirit's not going to fight you. Spirit won't fight against you. Spirit's not going to say, oh, well, we'll give it to you anyway, because your own consciousness is the vessel through which you receive whatever you need. And that's not just with the divine law of restitution. It's with anything within your sphere of influence. It's what you truly believe is possible in your heart, not just your wishing, but in your heart, what you truly believe is possible is the size of the vessel through which you can receive anything. So part of our jobs in doing any kind of magical work is examining and expanding what we believe is possible for us, because like I said, Spirit's not going to fight with you. Spirit's not going to battle you and say, no, you need more. Spirit's going to work with where you are. So no matter what, that's your first step. Miracles tend to be shut down in this day and age because of our cynicism. And that cynicism that we've been taught, it's very pernicious and it's very rampant. we close our minds to what we believe is possible. And like I said, spirit can only work through you and can't force you into anything. And spirit will never do anything to make you more fearful. Spirit will only do things to ease your fear and to work within whatever your current sphere of influence is, whether it be magic or whether it be that which is miraculous. And the difference being, magic is what we are attempting to do, and the miraculous is what is being done on our behalf, that which we cannot do. So you could look at it in the serenity prayer. The courage to change the things I can is magic. The things I can change, I'm gonna have the courage to change those things and maybe even keep expanding on what I think I have an influence over. That's magic. Accepting the things I cannot change means that I'm going to accept the miracles from spirit that will do for me what I cannot do for myself. Okay, so it's important to understand that regardless of which side of that coin you're on, whether it be the magical or the miraculous, that you are bound by your own sense of what you think is available to you. So always opening and expanding that container that can be filled by spirit. Having said that, now when it's time to call upon the law of restitution, you simply do it. You simply do it. You may use ritual, or you may just use a command. I call upon the divine law of restitution. There is no loss in spirit. Therefore, I cannot lose anything. Any apparent loss is now restored to me, or its equivalent. Okay, and you can even be more specific. I call upon the law of divine restoration. There is no loss in spirit. Therefore, I cannot lose anything. Therefore, that $8 million is now restored to me, or its equivalent. Now, or its equivalent is a wonderful thing to remember, because you're either going to get restoration or restitution. You can call it either one, because you'll get whichever is appropriate. Restoration means that you're just going to get it back, like if you lost something. In the case of that $8 million or something else, maybe it won't come back in the exact form. Maybe it won't come back in the exact form that it was lost, but its equivalent will come, and usually with interest, usually with something extra added. I call upon the divine law of restoration. That $8 million is now returned to me, or its equivalent, with interest. Anchor your mind on the fact that spirit is constantly restoring, is constantly coming back around and bringing back in the evidence that there is no loss. There is no loss. You can't subtract something from spirit. You can't add something to spirit. Spirit is. Now, spirit is constantly expanding, but that's not because something is being added to it that wasn't there. It's because of the mystery of how spirit is. Spirit is expansive by nature, but it's not expanding through any kind of addition. It's not getting something from outside of itself. It's growing. It's expanding. It's stretching. It's becoming more and more and more at all times. And that more and more and more can be part of who you are as well. But nothing in this world can follow anything but our mind. All is mind. Think in terms of the Hermetic law of mentalism. In Hermetics, nothing exists outside of the mind. Everything is mind. You could say that matter is the densest form of mind, and spirit is the finest form of mind. Okay, but it's all mental. It's all mental. Whether it has a physical experience, whether you're experiencing it in the physical or whether you're not, whether it's invisible to you, it's all mind. Everything is mind. And so nothing can happen for you that doesn't happen through your mind. And so, like I say, spirit can't do anything for you that it can't do through you. And so that's why we have our work cut out for us. Our work isn't necessarily to restore it. We don't know how to do that. You can't restore that $8 million by yourself. You can't restore that necessarily, even that wedding ring that you lost by yourself. Maybe you can, but let's say that you don't know where it is, that you can't find it. It's actually lost. So What you can do, rather than going out into the physical and figuring out how I'm going to get this thing back or how I'm going to get restoration or whatever, what you can do is focus on your mind. Focus on opening your mind to the possibility that the divine law of restitution can work for you, that spirit can be on the case, and that it is not only able, but willing and eager to give to you that which you apparently lost, what in the physical realm it seems like you lost. Now, there's many people that have spent years of their lives wasting years of their lives. I think all of us have had some of that. I don't know anybody that can't look back on their lives and say, oh, I can't believe all that time I wasted. Wasted time. And you can call on the divine law of restitution for those years. You can say, I call upon the divine law of restitution, and all of that apparent time that I wasted is now coming back to me, and all the good is now manifesting for me in wonderful ways. And what you can do is you can start to glean the benefits from those years. Rather than looking at them as wasted years, you can have spirit show you all the good things that happened, all of the things that you may not even realize that happened. A lot of times what looks like inactivity or a waste of time to the physical is not that at all. Something wonderful is happening. Something wonderful is being learned on deeper levels. Something wonderful is being learned or expanded in the invisible realms that we don't understand here in just this mortal experience that we're having. And so when you're calling on the divine law of restitution for apparent wasted time, wasted years in the past, what you're in essence doing is asking to be shown the reality and truth of the situation, that there was no wasted time because there is no waste in spirit. Even though your ego mind wasn't utilizing those years in any apparently productive manner, that doesn't mean that spirit and your soul weren't very, very busy getting a lot of wonderful things happening. But calling upon that law of restoration, what usually happens is that a lot of the time that was wasted, that we are sort of punishing ourselves for, what we notice is when we ask for that restoration to happen is that we have a vertical ascent very, very quickly. And it's as if we are not only where we think we should have been, but farther had we not so-called wasted those years, simply because we've called upon the divine law of restitution. And when you call upon that divine law of restitution, you're giving yourself and spirit permission to recalibrate your thinking so that you can open that container in your mind about what's possible and recognize that nothing was lost and there was no loss. And that's why if you can forgive yourself and forgive other people of the past, then you're in a place where you are capable of calling on restoration, calling upon that divine law of restoration and allowing it to work for you. But as long as you are resenting yourself or resenting other people in the past, your container is really small. You are really closed off to any kind of restitution happening. But as soon as we forgive ourselves and forgive other people, we are open and willing and able to have spirit show us, actually, everything is a lot different than we think it is. And through that divine law of restitution, not only am I getting back what I thought I lost, but I'm getting back extra. I'm getting a vertical ascent, and I'm going to end up being farther along than had I not done the things that I considered to be a waste of time. Because that's how loving spirit is, that it compensates us with interest no matter what. Now, maybe somebody's taken something from you. Maybe something was stolen, or maybe years were stolen from you. Maybe something in the past was stolen from you. Maybe a lot of things were stolen from you. And you say, I'll never get those back and my life is ruined. Well, until you are able to have some sort of mental construct that is entertaining the possibility that you can have those things restored to you, that you can have restitution for those apparent losses, you're going to be stuck in that. And that's just the way it's going to be. That's because that's how powerful you are. And like I said, Spirit's not going to fight you on this. So, but once you decide, well, I'm willing to forgive the people who apparently stole these things from me, or I'm willing to forgive myself for leaving myself open to having these things stolen from me, or whatever it happens to be, wherever those resentments lie, it's usually a little of both. Then I'm at a place where I can call on, I can invoke the divine law of restitution into this. And I can say, there is no loss in spirit. Therefore, I can't have had anything stolen from me. It's impossible. So I call upon the law of divine restitution. Everything that was apparently stolen from me is now restored, or its equivalent, with interest. And then you'll notice things really changing. Sometimes the law of divine restitution, when you really get it, when you are opening your mind to it, you are forgiving any resentments surrounding whatever the thing was, and then you are literally invoking this law. It's remarkable sometimes how quickly things can turn around just by doing this simple exercise of forgiving everyone involved, opening your mind to the new possibility that those things can be restored, and then invoking that divine law and letting spirit do its thing. Just really letting spirit do its thing. Your job isn't the restoration. Your job is forgiving and keeping your mind open to something that's possible, that those things can be restored. That's all your job is. And then calling on that divine restoration, invoking it purposefully. And you can be very specific. You can be very, very specific. But rather than saying, that those things that were stolen from me are now returned, you're going to say, I forgive everybody involved, and you can name the people, including yourself. I am open to those things being restored, and I call upon the divine law of restoration or restitution. You can call it either one you want. I call upon the divine law of restitution. There is no loss in spirit. Therefore, nothing really can be stolen from me. The things that were apparently stolen from me are now returned to me, or their equivalent, with interest. And it's really important to say apparently, because when you're telling your deep mind, oh, that's right, it's only in the world of this illusion that things seemed to be stolen. But since I'm using that as an idea, then it's easier for me to be open to the idea that those things can seem to be restored to me. Because in reality, none of that's really happening. What's happening is I'm waking up to the fact that nothing can be stolen from me, that there is no loss. So that whole thing that happened, I'm actually time traveling and changing things. I'm changing my relationship with the past and therefore my future. I'm changing my relationship with this illusory world, and now I'm allowing spirit to be in charge rather than the person who apparently stole the things from me, right? Because as long as we're giving power to people in this world or situations in this world, then spirit has to wait for us. But if we give the power to spirit, then the sky is really the limit. And again, this is not wishful thinking. Wishful thinking always gets you disappointment. But allowing yourself to open your mind to what's possible, to what's truly possible in your heart, that can be incremental sometimes. Sometimes you don't want to necessarily go too far too fast, but that vessel that you're opening up to will be filled by spirit. And it's that filling of that vessel and that experiencing of this divine restitution, or actually anything else that you do magically, that will give you more opportunity for faith in what's possible. And you can keep expanding that container based on experience. So get going with this right away. What has been lost? What do you think has been lost? What do you think is irretrievable? What are those regrets that you have about time wasted, or things that you lost, or things that were stolen, or things that were taken, or debts that you've gone into, or maybe you lost a bunch of money at a card game? You know, what things that you did or that were done to you that you are tallying up as losses in your past? Well, take just one at a time. Don't, just like with any magic, one thing at a time, and start working with the divine law of restitution. You have a lot of things in your past. If you just were able to forgive and open up to the idea of having restoration, and then calling on that law, invoking that law, and allowing it to work for you, just working with your past alone and restoring what was lost can give you a huge difference in what you're experiencing in this world as far as things like prosperity or love or whatever it is that you feel like you've lost. Like maybe it was a relationship that you lost. Maybe you really screwed it up. Maybe you really screwed up a relationship really bad, and you feel so much regret that that person and you aren't together anymore because of something that you think you did. So you can forgive yourself, and you can forgive that person, and you can open your mind to the idea that that relationship or its equivalent might come back to you. And then you call upon the law of divine restoration within that relationship and allow Spirit to do its work. I call upon the divine law of restoration. There is no loss in Spirit. Therefore, I can't lose anything. Now that apparent loss of that relationship is now being divinely restored, and I receive that relationship or its equivalent. Isn't that wonderful? And it's really just anchoring our minds on those thoughts that is the work. Now, you can use tools. You can incorporate these ideas in with any kind of magical operation, whether it be sympathetic magic or talismans or candles or any of that. And that all that does is it gives you even more of an anchor for your mind. But really, it's not the tools that do the work. We're not being superstitious here. It's your mind that's doing the work. And so use whatever you need to use in order to keep your mind anchored on those truths. The idea of forgiving all parties involved, including yourself, regarding the loss. Opening your mind to the possibility that that loss can be restored. And then calling on that divine law of restitution and allowing Spirit to do its work. Reminding yourself that there is no loss in Spirit. Spirit doesn't have loss. So therefore, you can't really lose anything, except for in this world of illusion. Therefore, you can call upon the law of divine restoration, and those apparent losses can be recovered, or their equivalent, with interest. Isn't that wonderful? Thank you so much for spending a little time with me. I hope that you enjoy working with this idea. I can't wait to hear all about your success. Until next time, blessed be.